As promised, I bring the Seer tier list for the Advanced Wars 2 game. Now, I'm gonna be reading them off of the Advanced Wars gameplay and a bit on the competitive analysis, mainly just how viable they are for the campaign slash maybe War Room. I've played a bit of War Room, but mainly I'm just gonna talk about like just how fun a Seer is to play in Advanced Wars 2 and how strong they are. So let's get started. At first, we obviously have Andy, the repair-based CEO, and I'm gonna put him in the B tier. So Andy, if you don't know, he's got no day-to-day bonus. He's the most average CEO out there. However, he has got two decent powers, which are repair-based, which we will talk about. His normal power is Hyper Repair. It costs 3 stars and it heals all of his units for 2 HP. I'm gonna give a bit of a spoiler here. Obviously, there's a lot of better normal powers that come at 3 stars. And Hyper Repair, for what it does, is not worth 3 stars. I would say if it was 2 stars, then yes, Hyper Repair would be actually a decent power. However, because it's 3 cost, it's a bit harder to play. It's like a bit harder to charge, and when you get it, it's not even that worth it usually. Yes, situationally, if you can get a kill, and that extra health would matter, then yeah, sure, go for it. If you're going against any of the global damaging CEOs, then you can use Hyper Repair to just heal all the global damage back. But the thing is, like, even against like Hawk, Olaf, or Drake, I still find that Hyper Upgrade usually does better, just because you get to heal 5 HP, and it's not like they're just gonna do 2 HP global damage to you and leave your units, they're still gonna damage your units quite significantly. So I tend to find Hyper Upgrade better. Speaking of Hyper Upgrade, this is 6-star superpower, which heals all of your units for 5 HP. He has 30% firepower and +1 movement to all of your units, which is just insanely good. It's a combination of a good seal power. It's got repairs, it's got mobility, and it's got firepower. And that makes for a good superpower, and that's why he's in the B tier. Again, he's like, if he had a better day to day, or like this, or any like repair based day to day, like healing more off of properties, like healing 3 HP. I know that's a day to day for Rachel from Dual Strike, but I feel like that would fit Andy more, if anything. And he didn't pay extra to repair the 3 HP, he would just repair more for the same price as other CS. And maybe he would go up higher, maybe. But like again, Andy without his day to day is just a normal CO, and he's like very much a super power reliant guy. He's very much a power reliant guy, so there's that. Alright, next up we have Max, and Max is going to be in the A tier for me. So if you don't know, Max is the direct combat specialist of the game, and all of his direct combat units have 20% boosted firepower. However, it is balanced by the fact that all of his indirect combat units have 10% reduced firepower and 1 reduced range. And the reduced range part is what makes Max's indirect so bad. So in a normal scenario, if you're facing artillery versus artillery or rockets versus rockets, you wouldn't be able to zone out the other indirect because both of you have same ranges. However, in the Max's case, you can range out, you can zone out Max's ranged units, and you're not even going to make ranged units, but still, if you were to make it like a rocket or a battleship, an opposing rocket or a battleship can zone you out, so that's a bit sad for Max. And he also loses out on artilleries, and I think artilleries are one of the best units in the game. They're very cheap and they can deal a lot of damage, and Max not having artilleries is going to suck. He's very much a, like, I wouldn't say like glass cannon, but he is kind of a glass cannon. He's very much an offensive seal. He's not good in the defensive department. Like Andy can take some damage, heal it back up, and retaliate, whereas Max is more of a punch like big holes into the wall type of guy. He's very much head first into like the enemy. And he's got 2 strong normal powers. He has got 2 strong powers. His normal power is Max Force, which boosts all the power of like boosts his 20% firepower on all of his entire combat units and gives them +1 movement. Max Blast does double the effect for double the cost. So 40% boosted firepower and +2 movement on all of his direct combat units. Again, these two powers are really strong, and that's what makes Max at A tier. If he didn't get the mobility boost, I think he would be B tier. But because he gets the mobility boost, he does go up to A tier. He can steamroll through you. He can very much break stalemate scenarios, and he can really punish you if you let him set up for too long. I think Max Blast can definitely end games, and Max Force can give you more momentum, so that's why I'm gonna give Max an A tier. He's also one of the few CEOs whose bombers can one-shot type seams, so that's also pretty nice about him in the campaign. And it's overall a solid pick, so yeah, he would be at A tier. Alright, so next up we have Sammy, and Sammy is the foot soldier specialist of the game. And I'll plop her next to Max for now. I think she's low A tier. I wouldn't say she's B tier. I think she's still pretty solid. Maybe she is high B tier. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna throw her in the A tier for now. So Sammy is the foot soldier specialist of the game. All of her foot soldiers gain 30% boosted firepower. It's really strong. And all of her foot soldiers' capture efficiency is also 50% more than the opponent, meaning a full HP infantry captures for 15 instead of the normal 10. On top of that, all of her transport units also gain +1 movement, so they can move quicker, they can get their stuff rolling quickly. She can put her mechs in the front lines, that's really strong. And also her infantries are very hard to stop captures, because you have to drop his Sammy infantry to 3 HP in order to interrupt a capture, which is just ridiculous. And all of these upsides come for a downside, which is that she has 10% reduced firepower on all of her die combat units, and that kind of sucks because in late game she tends to struggle a bit more because the game deviates to more bigger units like the medium tanks and the neo tanks, and at that point you really want to have the stronger units, but they'll be weak, so it's kind of hard to make Sammy work in that. In smaller maps, she absolutely dominates the opponent. Mech spamming is so much more viable, and complemented with her firepower bonus is just really strong. So her normal power is double time. It costs 3 stars, which allows her to gain 20% boost more firepower on her foot soldiers and gives them +1 movement. It's a decent normal power, but you're always going to save up for Victory March, which costs 8 stars, and it's probably one of the most broken superpowers in the game, which gives all of your foot soldiers 50% boosted firepower, so it goes up to 80%, which is just ridiculous. +2 movement, and infantries can capture instant capture properties regardless of their health. You can one turn capture any property, so you can cheese the SQ gaps, you can get a bunch of properties from your opponents and just swing the income gap towards yourself. So that's pretty good. And in normal campaign, the Max is more of a solid pick, but in the hard campaign, for the Orange Star missions, I found Sammy to be a bit more reliable, especially in the Liberation mission in the hard campaign, in which you're demanding to be played with indirects and infantries. So there's that. Also, her indirect units also not being weaker helps, because she can have mechs in the front lines and then have artilleries and rockets be in the back walls of your units, so that they can provide some indirect fire against opposing big boys. So yeah, it's pretty good. That's why Sammy's in low A tier. Alright, so yeah, now we shall rate Nell, and I think Nell will go to B tier. And this is mainly because I don't know how to rate Nell. It's more about she's very much a mixed bag. So she is a luck-based CEO, so her luck range is slightly better than the average CEO. Almost every CEO in the game has a luck chance of 0 to 10%, meaning they can do up to 1 HP more damage than usual. However, Nell has a luck rating from 0 to 20%, meaning they can do up to 2 HP more damage. So a bit more luck, which is always nice to have with Nell. And so that's about it. So her normal power is Lucky Star, which costs 3 stars and improves her luck rating up to 60%, so 0 to 60%. Meaning her units can do up to 6 damage provided they have the HP to compensate for that, because a unit can only deal luck damage equal to their health. So the lower they are, the worse their luck value becomes. And her superpower is Lady Luck, which gives her a luck rating from 0 to 100%. So there is a scenario where a null infantry can take out a knee attack, but that infantry has to be full HP. But it's a very mean power. Again, null is a mixed bag, because again, she's good if she gets good luck, but she's mid if she gets bad luck. So with that, I think she's just average in my opinion. I could be wrong. Luck damage is quite strong, but like while playing her like in the war room or even in a few versus maps, she's like alright. She isn't like the best seer out there. Plus, she can't use her in the campaign anyway, so there's that. So yeah, now it goes to B tier. Alright, next up is Hachi, and Hachi is probably one of the most broken seers in the game, and obviously goes to S plus tier. So Hachi here is the capitalist specialist. So all of his units are 10% cheaper to deploy, which makes it so that you get a bunch of cash to work with. And again, cheaper units are always nice. For no downside on top of that, it's just ridiculous. I think Hachi's just better calling. And his powers are also very busted. So his normal power barter costs 3 stars, and it makes it so that deployment rate is reduced to half, so you can get Neo tanks for 11,000. Yes, 11,000. That's the equivalent to 1 tank in a recon for the average CO. Does that seem balanced? Absolutely not. Hachi can just spam out a bunch of strong units, and they won't be weaker, unlike Colin's units. And while Colin has cheaper units in terms of a day-to-day bonus, Hachi does not really care. He has still got strong C. He's got the average stats, which is just fine. And being able to bring out bigger units makes it so that they're even more stronger than the opponent. His super merchant unit only costs 5 stars, and he does the same as barter, but it also allows you to produce ground units from your allied cities, which is just ridiculous. So if you're ahead in the game, you can pop your merchant unit and get your neo tanks out from cities, which may be more ages into the opposing side of the maps, which makes it even harder to play against Hachi. Like, he has no base limit. He can make as many units in a turn, basically. And that in itself is such a broken effect, so Hachi is S plus tier. So now with the orange star done, let's talk about the blue moon CO, starting with Olaf. And Olaf is the snow specialist of the game. He's not the weather specialist, so there's that. I'll put him in the C tier. And this might be our first C tier here. I mean, it is the first C tier, what am I saying? So he's the snow guy, he has average stats, and his day-to-day is that he's unaffected by snow. So if you don't know, snow in this game makes it so it severely hinders the mobility for all units. That's about it. Olaf is just unaffected by snow, that's it. But he's still affected by rain. And he does not get any firepower from snow, I think, and that's why I think Olaf is in C tier. So he's got a decent normal power in Blizzard, which makes it snow for a turn, which costs 3 stars, and his superpower Winter Fury, which brings up snow and deals 2 HP global damage for 7 stars. And yeah, I think Winter Fury is one of the best superpowers in the game. I wouldn't say one of the best, it's still a very strong superpower. It's not the best, I'd say. I just said it was one of the best, but nah, and now that I think about it, it's probably not. It's still a very strong superpower though. Being able to do 2 HP global damage and make it snow can really hamper the opponent. But aside from that, Olaf is more of a defensive CO, and for a more aggressive player as is, I find it hard to make Olaf work. Again, the lack of firepower outside, like, he just does not have anything that boosts firepower. And he just has average units, like, he does not have any, like, punching capabilities. Like, he can't push that well. He can stop pushing from happening, because a well-timed Blizzard or Winter Fury can stop opposing players from, like, popping their powers and crushing you, so being able to even stop for a turn can sometimes help. However, again, Olaf, I wish he got, like, at least 10 or 20% boosted firepower from snow, so that he would have a bit more like punch with his powers. Like, cause Blizzard, while it's good to like stop pushing, if you're ahead in the game, you can't just pump Blizzard. Like, you can do hybrid repair or like a max force or a double time or a lucky star or a barter. Like, it's just hard to make Blizzard work. You're almost always saying for Winter Fury, it's almost like the same situation with Andy, where they're basically the same. They have a niche where Andy is more of a healing strengthen his units guy, whereas all of his damage opposing players and like disrupt the opponent's play. But because Hyper Upgrade is way better than Winter Fury in my opinion, like I think it goes down there. Like, because he does not get any firepower bonus. At least with Andy, you do get some form of firepower bonus in his superpower, whereas he doesn't, so that's why he's going down in C tier. Right, next up is Grit, and he belongs in the S tier. Grit is just fantastic in this game. So he's the indirect combat specialist of the game, and all of his units gain, like all of his indirect units gain plus 20% boosted firepower and plus 1 range, but all of his direct combat units lose 20% firepower, except for his foot soldiers, which are just fine. And just having plus 1 range on his indirects makes it so that his artilleries are basically budget rockets. You can get 2 artilleries out for 1 rocket, so like for less than the value of 1 rocket, which is so good, and they perform so well. That combined with an infantry wall makes it so hard to play against Grit. If there's anything that if there's any form of choke points, Grit can absolutely shut you down. And with his rockets, he can just like, if he is starting to build rockets, it might just be game over because he's that ahead of you. Because Grit is just gonna artillery spam, get a bunch of indirects out on the field, and then like you're just screwed. I would say he's A in Fog of War just because he wouldn't have the vision, but in a standard match, I would say he's S tier. He's just so hard to defeat, especially when you can see your opponent's intents. You can think about it, you can strategize, you can just build an indirect wall, and then you're just like, what are you going to do? Attack him? No, you'll die before you even reach him. That's how good he is. So, like, just as is, Grit is really good. And let's talk about his powers. So, his normal power is Snipe Attack, which makes so that all of his indirects gain plus 30% boosted firepower and an additional range. So, his artilleries have a range of 2 to 5 and have 50% boosted firepower for your turn. It's just nuts. His superpower is Super Snipe, just the same as Snipe Attack, but gives you plus 2 range, and that's like very situational because again they already have boosted range as is as a day-to-day, and giving the plus 2 range on top of their boosted range is usually overkill. You don't need it. You always want to like spam Snipe Attack, and for 3 stars again it's such a strong power. Like compare that with like Blizzard or like a Hyper Repair, they fail in comparison to this normal power. So yeah, it's just absolutely insanely broken in this game, and yeah, you have to be careful. Alright, next up is the rich boy of Blue Moon, Colin, and he's also S tier, right alongside Grit. So Colin is the rich boy, so all of his units are 20% cheaper to deploy, so a little less than Hachi, but all of his like units are 10% weaker, which kind of sucks. Or so you think. It does suck, yes, but the fact that he can surely spam so much units as in a day-to-day manner is so crazy. Again, 10% weaker units aren't that bad. Think about Battlecopters, they're still pretty good at what they do. And a 10% weaker medium tank is still a goddamn medium tank that you have to face against. And just having cheaper medium tanks against your opponent's regular tanks, you're just gonna win that battle. And being able to spam out a bunch of units is also pretty good. And he's also so broken thanks to his normal power, Gold Rush. And Gold Rush only costs 2 stars, which multiplies your funds by 1.5 times, meaning it multiplies your funds by 50% or adds 50% to your current funds, which is just really strong. And that also adds up to his spam ability, You almost want to gold rush. And powers also give you 10% defense as is. Like, and anytime you pop a power, you get plus 10% defense. So your units are also bulkier on the turn. You get gold rush. You just get a bunch of units out, and it's just really hard to win. He's very much a quantity over quality type of CEO, but like even in quality, it's not as bad as you think. I'd say Colin absolutely deserves the S tier. He's so good. He can just outnumber you so quickly, and then you might as well just give up at that point. Alright, next up, we go to Yellow Comet, starting with the Emperor himself, Kanbei, and he also joins the S tier. So 3 S tiers in a row. So Kanbei is the exact inverse of Colin. So all of his units are 20% more like expensive to deploy, but all of his units are 30% boosted firepower and defense. It's not just firepower; it's also the defense, and that makes him absolutely broken. Again, both these are inverse concepts, but they're equally stronger. If not, Kanbei is better because he gets defense as well. If it was just firepower, they would be very similar. But because of the defense, his units just don't die. His infantries on cities have 60% base defense, so they can withstand tanks, anti-airs pretty easily. Okay, maybe not anti-air, but even like they can withstand tanks pretty darn easily. He'll like just take it, and his units will just be so darn resilient. It's so hard to beat him. And then like he'll just overwhelm you by his sheer strength, and then he'll outnumber you slowly. At first, his unit count might be lower, but later on you will feel it. And he's got an absolutely busted superpower. Like, now that is one of the best superpowers in the game. But like, let's talk about his normal power. Morale boost is 4 stars. And it gives you like a 20% boost of firepower. That's about it. Don't use morale boost when you have Samurai Spirit, which is one of the most broken superpowers in the game. And like, it makes it so that all of his units gain an additional 20% boosted firepower, plus 20% more defense, and the power also gives him another 10% defense, so by default he'll have 60% base defense at 50% boosted firepower. Not only that, all of his counterattacks are also 50% more stronger, so any unit of Kanbei that is in mountains or HQ are invulnerable from any damage. Anything on a property is 90% defense, so good luck killing them. You're not going to kill them. And as I'm saying this, I forgot to mention Colin's superpower, but it's so darn, situational, or such a meme power that I'm not going to talk about it right now. It's like, it shows you how irrelevant his superpower is and how absolutely unnecessary it is. But for Kanbei's case, his superpower is just broken as hell. Like, once you pop it, like, it might be just game over. It's like, his units just don't die. It's, like, unbelievable how good Kanbei is. So with that, he deserves the S tier. After 3 All-Star CEO performances here with the S tier, we're gonna pull Sonya to C tier now. And while it might be the lowest in this tier, the C is still not that bad, but just kinda mid. So Sonya is the Fog of War specialist of the game. All of her units have +1 vision, which is pretty good. She also hides all her HP from the opponent, which is also another tedious factor that the opponent has to account for, which may break their focus. And finally, she also has 50% stronger counterattacks. However, this is balanced by the downside that her units have a -10% luck modifier on top of the normal ones. So it's -10% to +10%, effectively nullifying her luck damage. So the game incentivizes you to get counterattacks on Sonya, and it's hard to deal with Sonya's units, especially when you don't know their HP. If you attack incorrectly, she will counterattack pretty strongly, so there's that. Yeah, like in Fog, I would say she's very strong B tier. I would say like top B tier, but like in standard play, I would say she's like maybe top C tier. You know what, C tier, because of her stronger counterattacks. It does kind of hard to deal with her. Like with even attacks, it's really hard to deal with Sonya, especially when you're gonna take 50% stronger counter damage. And if Sonya's units are properties, you're gonna feel that wrath. It's pretty good for her, Sonya. Her normal bar is enhanced vision, which gives her +1 more vision, and also allows her to see through woods and reefs without being adjacent to it. Again, her normal bar not being able to be used on standard is why she's in C tier. If her normal bar was also more relevant, I would say she would be B tier, low B tier, but her normal bar not being in there is kind of bad in standard play. It costs 3 stars, so it's a pretty cheap power. But you want to save for her counter break, which is 5 stars, which gives her first strike upon being counter attacked. Meaning she gets first turn attacked regardless of whose turn it is and whenever they're attacking for that turn. Which is a really strong superpower, especially when you're getting that 50% boosted firepower on top of the counter break. Like, it's just crazy good. It also, like, counter break also gives the same effects as enhanced vision, so the counter break is just a very strong version of enhanced vision. And if you're playing more indirect like, then yeah, pop in the enhanced vision and volume war, but even as a general good stuff, like counter break is still pretty good. And the way people play around counter break is just by not attacking that turn and then Sonya is back to her normal bad luckness. That's why she's in C tier. Like there's the ways to counter her. And Val animation also kind of breaks her, so there's that. So yeah, Sonya is in C tier. So next up we have Sensei, the paratrooper, and if you thought Sammy's foot soldiers were strong, Sensei makes them look like nothing. He's also a S tier. See, so Sensei being a paratrooper has stronger foot soldiers and also very strong battlecopters. So his day-to-day is that his foot soldiers have plus 40% boosted firepower, which is just ridiculous. Which makes Sammy's specs look weaker. And he also has 50% stronger battlecopters, but all of his other units have 10% reduced firepower except for air units, which are normal. On top of that, the transport units also have +1 movement, which is just an added benefit for a foot soldier player. And there's this saying in the Advanced Wars community about the Sensei playstyle where you use infantry, mechs, and battlecopters and beat the opponent, because you only need these 3. And he's just absolutely busted. His normal bar copter command only costs 2 stars, and it makes it so that he gains 25% boosted firepower on all of his battlecopters, and he spawns 9 HP infantry on all of his allied cities. He can just swarm the opponent, and also get a significant power boost for just 2 stars, which is just crazy. You're just spamming battlecopters as Sensei and taking out anti-airs with mechs, which are very cost-efficient answers to anti-airs. It's just crazy good how strong Sensei is. Like, he's just gonna overwhelm you. His superpower airborne assault does the same as Copter Command, but he spawns 9 HP mechs instead. And they're 9 HP because you get to merge them and you get a bunch of money out of it. I think that's the original idea. Otherwise, they would just give him full HP mechs, I think. But having 9 HP mechs is just incredibly strong. But most of the time, you can just spam Copter Command and he'll just beat you. He's gonna destroy you because like the unit spam is just crazy. And he'll capture a bunch of properties, and his stronger infantries and mechs will just overwhelm you, and you'll just lose before you can do anything about it. Yes, his other ground units are weaker, but when you have battlecopters, you're spamming battlecopters, dude. Oh no, anti-air is here. Guess what next? Oh no, opposing infantry. Your infantries are stronger and better and cooler because you're Sensei, obviously. So yeah, so easy S tier, one of the easiest ones. So now we move on to Green Earth, and speaking of an air or paratrooper, we now go to Eagle, who's in the A tier. And Eagle's pretty darn solid. All of his areas have like 15% booster firepower and plus 10% defense. They also consume 2 less fuel per day, which is relevant on his fighters and bombers, which if you're going in a longer battle, then yeah, that fuel cost definitely matters, but If it's like a small map with a bunch of battlecopters, then yeah, nah. Usually you don't notice it because it's like the match will end by then, or your units will just die by then. But his naval units have 30% reduced firepower, but that's not really a downside given that he does not make naval units as is, and on top of that, even if he were to make it, they would be absolutely unusable. Like you can't use naval units as Eagle. The best you can do is use cruisers, which have like 30% reduced firepower, but still they're anti-air units, so maybe they might work. But you're always going to make 2 helicopters if you're going to deal with their opposing helicopter. Again, Eagle is just nuts. His Nora bar is kind of bad. Not a lightning drive, only 3 stars, which gives you like a very small bonus. Sets your firepower and defense on your just to 30%, which like it starts at 15 and 10, so it's like barely a boost. You want to always get your lightning strike, which costs 9 stars, which gives the same boost as lightning strike, but it also allows your non-infantry units to move again. So anything but foot soldiers can double turn, which is just absolutely incredible, and they also get stronger in their second turn. So it's just crazy good how Eagle's superpower is. It's like one of the more broken superpowers there. And if there are no airports, then yeah, still lightning strike is still pretty darn good, but his normal power it becomes useless. That's why he's an A tier. But again, that superpower is also why he's also A tier. Otherwise, he would be B. But like the lightning strike is so strong. It's just nuts. Alright, so now we move on to the naval specialist, Drake. And Drake belongs in the sea because he traverses the seas. But I was trying to do a boom tish, but it just sounds like a bunch of crap. Anyways, so Drake's day-to-day bonus is that all of his naval units have 10% extra defense and +1 mobility. Now, these are some unique traits. Plus 10% defense was actually nerfed from 20% to 10% for some reason, but that +1 move is actually pretty cool, I would say. His battleships being able to move farther, meaning that they can get to position on time. His cruisers being faster than battlecopters does also help because he can run away from battlecopters, which is like something we can't tend to do with normal cruisers. But like his air units are 30% weaker. Now, there is a reason why there is no D tier in this tier list. Spoilers alert, I'm not going to put anything in D tier. Unless I feel like it really needed to be, but if it weren't for his powers, I would say Drake would be a D tier CO. But his powers are the saving grace here. Being a naval specialist in a game where naval is strictly outclassed by air, it's really hard to make work. But because of his powers, he is still relevant. So he has some 2 decent powers. His normal power Typhoon makes it so that he deals 1 HP of global damage and drains fuel by half. And his superpower is Typhoon, which deals 2 HP damage to all, does 2 global damage and drains fuel by half and causes it to rain. Speaking of rain, his units are not affected by rain. And if weather is on, he also has a likelihood of making it rain more often. But usually you won't see it. Like in campaign, there is no weather randomization. The weather is always clear. And unless you're playing with your friends, you usually will never encounter random weather. So that part of his day-to-day is kind of bad. But his 2 powers are very good. Being able to drain fuel by half makes it so that you start to see the fuel icon on infantry. And if you've never seen it before, I thought it would never happen. Well, Drake can make it happen. If he pops Typhoon twice, you might actually see flashing icons on infantry, which is really funny. But aside from that, again, being a naval commander and having 30% weaker air units makes it so that his copters are basically useless. He has to rely on naval extremely well, and if there's airports in the map, you're screwed. Same case with the Eagle and ports. But again, if you have ports, you need a large income base just to bring out naval units in a more regular fashion. So that's why Drake unfortunately sits in the C tier. Alright, next up is Jess, the vehicle specialist of the game, and she is a beater CEO in my opinion. So Jess is pretty strong. All of her vehicles gain a 10% boosted firepower. However, all of her other units, including foot soldiers, have 10% reduced firepower. Now, like unlike every other CEO who has weaker direct combat units, except foot soldiers, just for some reason also has weaker foot soldiers, and like for the game's context, they it's like Eagle is the air specialist, uh, Jake is the sea specialist, and Jess is supposed to be the ground specialist. She's the one with weaker infantry, really. Like they could have made Eagle's infantry weaker because he solely relies on copters and he's more of a air guy, anyways. Like Jake seems more balanced, and like Jess for some reason has weaker. If anything, she should have stronger ones because she's supposed to be the ground specialist. But yeah, rant aside, I still think Jess is like a B tier. I know some people tend to not like Jess because of her weaker infantry. They rate her at D tier, but in the campaign and overall for fun's sake, I think Jess is beater because one, she has another hidden day-to-day bonus of having a kick-ass theme song, so there's that. And also, 10% stronger vehicles are pretty good. Having your vehicle stronger is a cool concept because it mixes both direct and indirect units and your strength. Like Grit is only indirect, Max is only direct, Eagle is only air, and Jake is only naval. They're only specialized in one sort of field, whereas Jess has multiple things. She has stronger rockets, but she also has stronger tanks. She has also stronger anti-air and missiles, which is a pretty unique way to attack. Her anti-airs are also capable of one-shotting mechs and things, which is a pretty cool thing to know. Because I played Rain of Fire and I killed one of Hawk's mechs with an anti-air, and it felt good. Jess is a fun CEO, especially her powers are one of the best in the game. Turbocharge and Overdrive, which are Max's powers for vehicles, but they also resupply, which is a very strong mechanic, which makes it so that Jess never has to refuel any of her units. If she deploys air or naval units, they don't have to resupply, which is also a very strong thing to do because at times you have to pull your naval or air units back for an APC just to resupply and come back to the battlefield. That take too long. Jess is nah fam, I'm just gonna resupply you by myself. And so she'll just resupply them for free, have it thin air, which is really good. And again, the mobility boosted firepower is also criminally underrated. And while it might be oh, why would you want a mobility boost on indirects if you can't attack and move on the same turn? Well, positioning indirects are also very important. A well-positioned indirect is still a pretty good indirect. Even if you're using Max and you get a good choke point position with his rockets, all of a sudden that rockets is going to hurt. It's still going to be a pretty good rockets, regardless of his limitations. So yeah. I think Jess beater. Genuinely, I think she is a strong CEO for this game specifically. Not in competitive things might differ, but obviously in a more fun, casual environment, I think Jess is a pretty strong CEO. Alright, next up we have Flack, and he's our Lord and Savior. Don't question his thing. He's the best CEO in the game. I think there should be his thingy magic right about here. If it isn't there, it's kind of awkward, but I think it's there. So Flack, if you don't know, it's worse now, basically, but that's only for show. He purposefully nerfs himself because he knows that he's the strongest CEO and he needs to show these guys mercy. So yeah, Flack is awesome. Alright, next up we have Lash. And Lash is the terrain specialist of the game. So she's a B tier CEO, I would say. And or some people might say she's A tier. Allow me to explain why she's B tier. So Lash, again, as I said, is a terrain specialist. So her day-to-day is that for every terrain star, she also gains 10% boosted firepower on all of her units. On top of the 10% defense, she also gains firepower, which is really nice because you want to take favorable engagements of terrain, so you'll get even more damage off of that. That's really strong. And like you want to attack from like an indirect from a city who has 30% boosted firepower, which is stronger than Grit's units has a day-to-day. So that's pretty cool. Like from an HQ or a mountain, your infantry like have 40% boosted firepower, which is just nuts. On top of the defense, so yeah, that's pretty cool. Her Norbar is terrain tactics, which allows her to reduce all terrain movement cost down to 1, makes it so that she can basically walk through terrain freely. She becomes a mini Storm for a day, essentially. But you want to save for Prime Tactics, which does the same thing as Terrain Tactics, but also doubles Terrain Stars, which is just insane. It's units on like properties have 60% boosted firepower and 70% defense, courtesy to the 10% buff by the uses of the power. Her units on HQs and mountains are almost invulnerable, having 90% defense, similar to Kanbei, but Kanbei has 100% defense in HQs and mountains. And so, like, yeah, she's pretty darn competent, but the thing. So, why she isn't B tier then? She sounds like an A tier CO. Like, she has no weaknesses, technically. Well, again, for a superpower that does nothing on roads is kind of laughable. Like, if you use Prime Tactics and you take up engagement from road, you're not getting any firepower still. Like, if the Prime Tactics added, like, some terrain stars, then maybe it would be better. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think still doubling terrain stars is still stronger, I think. But again, like as I said, in roads and bridges and shoals, there are plenty of ways where her units won't get terrain stars. Her air units don't get terrain stars at all. Well, battlecopters are still strong units. Her air units just does not get any boosts. And I think that is why in Dual Strike there's a trend where they're like, these units gain boosted firepower, even air units on like cities or something like later on, which was why which is why they put this change. Because like people were too salty about her not getting boost on her air units. Her naval units can still get it, but only from reefs. And Doing Stars also get worse as your HP goes down, so yeah, you have to be a bit careful with her HP, because a low HP unit won't be able to get the full benefits of her powers, so yeah, that's why she's in B tier. Okay, next up is Adder, and Adder goes to the D tier, or C tier rather, sorry, not D tier. And Adder is a very simple CEO. His day-to-day is that he has no day-to-day, and his powers boost mobility. That's it. Snowball Slice costs only 2 stars to get +1 movement, and his superpowers Snakebite or Sidewinder gives him +2 movement. That's it. And he's just really annoying to go against for the most part. Yes, like his units feel faster, but other than that, he has no firepower bonus. He's just a normal CEO who can really move fast. And that's not really great. Yes, movement is good on a power, but like, that's it. No firepower. Then what's the point? So that's why he goes to like the C tier. He's not that good. Alright, next up is Hawk, and I think Hawk also deserves to be in the B tier. He might be A tier in the campaign, like overall, but like I think she's B tier. And let me explain why. If you're going based off the campaign, yes, A tier. Otherwise, I would say B tier. Now, Hawk for early players may feel like, oh yeah, Hawk is pretty competent, right? But not really. So his day-to-day is that his units have 10% boosted firepower. That's it. That is all. And he has 2 really expensive powers in Black Wave and Black Storm. Black Wave costing 5 stars and Black Storm costing 9 stars. Black Wave does 1 global damage and heals your units for 1 HP, whereas Black Storm does 2 global damage and heals all of his units for 2 HP. So lifesteal, basically, for a very high cost. And that usually isn't that good. It's not that great. Like, Hawk is like, I mean, it's of strong power, don't get me wrong, but the cost and the time it takes to get to Black Storm is too much. Black Wave isn't as good as you think. 1 HP heal, barely anything. 1 HP global damage still does not feel that good. Like, Black Storm is the only thing that's worth popping, and it takes 9 stars to do so. And for the time being, you only have 10% boosted firepower to work with. That's not that much. Yeah, sure, Jess also only has 10% firepower on her vehicles only, but her powers can, one, charge quicker. Second, her powers do way more for her, and they get to some crazy heights. Whereas Hawk just kind of sits there and he doesn't get any firepower bonus. He just does a bunch of, like, he does a bit of damage from time to time and he just is kind of there. That's it. Yeah, that's about Hawk. He's such, there's that. Alright, so finally we're gonna talk about Storm. And he's also S+ tier. He's just broken as hell. So Storm, if you don't know, he has a day-to-day bonus that of 20% boosted firepower and defense, which is just, yeah, of course, and he has unimpeded movement, meaning he does not care about carrying costs at all. And that in itself is so broken that he's already in S tier, but the reason he goes to S+ tier is one, having a really cool CO theme, but also Meteor Strike. Like, that in itself, he already is in S+ tier, but Meteor Strike is just the nail in the coffin. It drops a meteor in a missile silo radius, which does 8 damage, and the meteor has some variations, but like, you need to watch Max's video for that to understand. I also only understood the meteor after that, but like, he does 8 damage for a missile silo radius for like 10 stars, which again, once the Meteor Strike drops, I think you'll basically lose. It's so much harder to like build a army against Storm, because if your army is too packed, 1 Meteor Strike will just drop on them and then they're all at 2 HP, and the Storm also gains boosted firepower and defense on top of the meteor once he pops Meteor Strike, and then he'll just clean up and then win. He's just the most broken CO in this game, and it's not even funny. He's actually the most broken CO in this game. He's just the king. He even beats Hachi, like, easy peasy beats Hachi. He's just that strong. Yeah, that's about it. So that's my CO tier list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys may have like gotten something. If you guys beg to differ, let me know in the comments. I would say maybe Sammy goes to B tier if you feel like it, but yeah, I think overall this is the thing. Like, it's just from my own personal experience and how much fun I've had playing with these COs. If you're going based on fun, then this CO tier list would be a lot more different. But yeah, that's about it. I'll see you guys next time.